and welcome to today's edition of Star Not Scars. Today is the second interview that we have. Like last time, it is indeed a very inspirational person, Mr. Mehul Vyas, who is a cancer survivor. He was diagnosed with stage 4 laryngeal cancer, that is cancer of the throat, and started smoking at the age of 15 and became addicted. The initial symptoms of his cancer were weight loss, a change in voice, and pain while swallowing and breathing. He was diagnosed with cancer in Pune when he went to stay with his mother. And the doctors performed an endoscopy, which is where they visualize the throat through putting in a tube, and found a big lump on his right vocal cord. The vocal cords are responsible for our speech. He was then given a biopsy was performed, and it was confirmed that he had advanced throat cancer. As Mehul's wife worked in the United States at that time, they got his treatment done there in Ohio. The tumor had already spread from the throat to the spine, and the doctors then tried aggressive chemotherapy. He also had a tracheostomy tube, a tube which is put into the throat to enable breathing to make it easier. And thereafter, also a feeding tube, which was in his went into his through his nose into his stomach. So after the chemo, luckily, he seemed to respond very well and underwent a scan. The second time around, they found a few traces of throat cancer, and he was then given a choice to either remove the vocal cord, which is a very major surgery where he would lose his voice and not be able to talk, or then continue with chemo and be given radiation. Mehul fought the cancer bravely. He came out a changed person, and he's right now in his 8th year of remission. Life and cancer have both taught Mehul a number of lessons, and he has learned that in spite of many of the effects and the trouble that he went through of a paralyzed vocal cord, symptoms which have remained after the cancer treatment, he considers himself very lucky to be alive. So Mehul has started his own support group on Facebook. He gives presentations at the school where addiction of smoking begins. And he insists that one should not overlook the symptoms. He raises awareness for de-addiction and is eternally grateful to his support system, his pillar of strength, his wife, son, and family for support. So, Mehul, welcome to the show. And we are really, really happy and delighted to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nag, for giving me a platform to speak and share my thoughts. And it is an honor to be here with this group and also to share the stage with you. Thank you so much.
Not at all. So just to begin with, Mehul, can you tell us, I know this is taking you 8 years back and this is a long time away, and a lot of survivors probably don't like to revisit, but it would really help if you could tell us a little bit about your journey. First of all, how did you react when you got this problem? Was it a surprise, or did you know that, like you've been smoking, so something is going to happen? So what was your initial reaction?
Yes, exactly. So I started smoking right from my college days, like it was peer pressure, and one cigarette became 2 and then 3, and then I continued smoking even when I started working. In approximately 2014, I started losing weight. I started having trouble swallowing and breathing and all those coughing. Sometimes blood used to come out in my cough, and I was scared. I knew something was wrong, but I still was not able to quit smoking. So that continued. And back of my mind, I know, your brain is the best doctor for your body is what I think. So the brain knows that something's wrong. And I knew that it's not good. So I kept going to my local, the general practitioner that we have those in India. And then he kept giving me antibiotics and kept changing them. It just kept getting worse. So one day, my wife was in the US, and I went to my mom's place to sleep because I was scared I would never wake up. And My mom heard me breathing in the night, and she took me to a bigger hospital, Aditya Birla in Pune, and they did a scope. And as you said, they found a lung. So that is when they diagnosed it as advanced stage cancer. The first thing, my reaction was denial. Why me? Why not my other friends who smoke more than me? They should get cancer first, not me. So that was the bargain going on in my mind. And then I went into depression. I gradually, I believe every person who gets that blow, who knows, cancer for us was like dying at that time for me, being a new person to the world of cancer. And then this all went for a couple of days. I was in a denial mode. Not me. I have not done anything wrong, and I so many thoughts were just going around in my head. And then finally, in a couple of days, I had came to a state where I accepted the fact. Okay, it's now I have cancer. Now what? So like it started with denial and it ended with acceptance. And then when by the time I had a tube in my throat, so that was more frustrating. I could not talk. So my wife was not there. I had my parents, my in-laws close to me. They were all of great support. But um, I had accepted finally that I have cancer and I have to deal with it. So that was my my reaction for the first week after my diagnosis.
So thanks for sharing that, Mehul. But tell me, when you got your diagnosis, obviously, like you mentioned, a lot of patients don't can't believe it at first, right? And there is denial, and I think that's later followed by a bit of anger, saying, like, why have I been singled out, and have I committed such a grave sin to be able to be going through all this? And finally, there is depression, there is sadness, but there is acceptance as well. So, what was your biggest? You have had a tough journey, and I want you to tell us about it. But what do you think got you through that? Was it
Um,
belief in yourself, belief in your doctors? Was it your family support? What really helped you get through this?
Guilt. Feeling of guilt made me. I felt very guilty. I felt like I should. My wife, my kid, they kept telling me, "Don't smoke. It's not good." My family kept warning me. They did all they could to stop me from those habits. I was into alcohol as well, so I when I was and my wife kept telling me, if once you're diagnosed, I'm going to leave you and go and all. She never left me. That's a different thing, but uh, uh, so that guilty feeling that instead of so many warnings and all that hurt me a lot. And I thought that I cannot. My kid was 7 years old at that time, so I could not. I thought I cannot leave him. It's not his fault. I cannot leave him without a father. I cannot leave my wife halfway. She was right. I have to correct things now, whatever it takes. So I will do everything possible in my capacity. I'll fight it back. Um, my mistake. I have to correct it, and that was what I made. I just made up my mind. Come what may. I
So
told my
you,
doctors.
so you, so you kind of changed a bad almost into something you realized you had to rectify and
Yes,
kind of,
exactly. Yeah.
get well for the family. So that was your biggest motivation, I would say.
Yeah. So I gathered
That's
all my frustration.
fantastic.
Yeah, I gathered all my frustration and anger together, and I said, now I'm not going to die. I
Hmm.
am not going to die without fixing my faults. So that's
But
I believe that.
that's very amazing, because I do see a lot of patients, and I do see them give up, and they're very fearful when they realize, because in those days, especially, people like you said, equate cancer to dying, which is so not true. And they kind of give up before the fight has begun. But you just had made up your mind that you had your son and your wife to live for, and you were going to do it for them. So really, hats off to you. So tell me, how did you land up in the US for treatment?
So my wife she's in software, I'm in finance. So my wife had an opportunity in her place of work where she was promoted and she could go to the US. And we, as a young couple, we were thinking of, see a new life and make things. Let's take an experience of, being out of the country and being in the States. And my kid was 7. So my wife was already in the US a couple of weeks earlier. She went there, and I
Right.
was waiting to quit my job. I worked with Pune, and I was waiting to quit my job and my son's school year to get over. So that was the time when I was diagnosed. So it everything shattered. Like, you have your passport, you have your visa, everything. I have to just
Sure,
fly
sure.
there, and then this cancer thing comes
Yeah,
in. So,
yeah.
when the doctors in Pune, they diagnosed me, and they said that it's an advanced stage. My wife, when she came to know, she's a brave lady, I tell you. She's the one who brought me through, and so she was about to come back to India, but then she thought no. And then she spoke to the doctors in Pune and understood what's going on. She took reports from them. And then she tried to do some research in the US. And then she came across some doctors in James Cancer Hospital in Ohio, and they were kind enough
Right.
to, see the reports and give some advice. So she was the one who decided that let's get Mehul to the US, because she thought there were better options over here.
Sure.
And I was not the one who decided where I should be treated. So I was in pain, and I was in a shock till that
Yes.
time. But then, yeah, she was the one who got me through, and because I had my documents ready. Luckily, one of her company arranged some other gentleman who was going to fly to the US to fly with me, so that he could be with me while I travel.
Right.
I had,
Right. Yeah, because you had a tube in your throat when you
yeah,
traveled. So
yeah,
that must have been difficult for you.
yeah,
So tell me,
exactly.
Mehul, when you were diagnosed and they said it's advanced, it had spread to the spine as well?
No, not at that point of time. They said it's a big tumor. I don't
Right.
remember the stage at that time when
Right.
they did it.
Right. Advanced stage
Open.
laryngeal cancer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
All
then
right.
when I flew down to the US, and when I reached my
Right.
cancer hospital, they scanned me again. And when they scanned me, it's that point of time they said that the tumor that was on your vocal cord now has spread
Right.
to your spine.
Gone
So
behind. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So within a couple of weeks, like till it's the same like in the US. There was a lot of rush, but fortunately they put me in between. I got an appointment a bit earlier, but that again took a couple of weeks. So by the time the doctors could scan me, see my reports, it had spread all around my spine. And then,
Were you in a lot of pain at that time?
yeah, I was in pain. I had the tube in my throat. I was coughing blood from the tracheostomy tube.
Oh
I
dear.
was
Oh
uncomfortable.
dear.
You cannot sleep like with a tube in the throat all
Yeah,
the
of
time. And,
course. Of course. Of course.
I had,
Those were tough days. Did you ever feel like giving up?
no, I am not
No?
going to die.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I think, what we also have found, and actually some studies have shown that the better the fighting spirit and the less the depression of any patient with cancer at diagnosis, the better the outcomes. So we see that in our work. We have data to prove that, and you're certainly a living example of that. So that's wonderful. So tell me, how did you manage the resources? Because treatment in the US is not cheap. So were you covered by insurance? How did it all work out for you?
Yes, exactly. It's I'm the luckiest person, and because I was covered by my wife's insurance in her office.
Oh, super. Okay.
Yeah, and that helped a lot. We again, it was not easy. The insurance doesn't cover everything, because we did have some co-pays that we had to. But my wife was able to manage. I don't know exactly. I don't remember now what she did, but she has done many things, put things together, and she got me through out of the treatment, and it's still going on while we go forward with the talk. I'll let you know what's in the plate. Yeah, but it's I would advise, if anyone who's listening to this, please get yourself and your family insured. It's very, very important. And
Absolutely. I
yeah.
absolutely agree with you, Mehul. In fact, I've just renewed my policy and topped it up because I understand that today honestly, 5 lakhs has no meaning for cancer treatment with all the new treatments out there. And you need to be well covered. So I think Mehul's given an excellent message to everyone. If you can top up your insurance, get a maximum cover for yourself and your family. It may not be for cancer, it may be for heart disease, but there's so many good treatments out there that come at a price, and you can really be cured if you can afford the best. So I think that's a great message you've sent. So was the chemo tough? Was it really tough
Yes.
on you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had my. So what happened is, so when they saw the tumor spread across, till the spine,
Yeah.
initially they
Yeah.
had planned
Yeah.
to remove my vocal cord and
Okay.
then do a radiation or whatever the
Sure.
follow up was. So when the tumor had spread out, they kind of put that idea aside. They said it's kind of risky to operate you now.
Mm. Mm.
So they said let's try a chemo. So the main difference between what I felt at that point of time was the approach, the difference between the treatment in India and in the US. So in India,
Right.
I was first seen by an ENT surgeon, and she planned to remove my vocal cord. And then she said she
Vocal
would
cord.
send me to the oncologist, and then he would do what is needed next. But in the US, there were like 10, 12 people as a team: oncologist, dietitian, ENT, a social worker.
Got it.
I don't know. Everyone, they came as a team, they worked as a team. So that really was really helpful for me. So
So
the
you're
doctor,
talking of a multidisciplinary approach is what you're talking about.
comprehensive, yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah, where everybody sits together and takes a treatment decision rather than shuttling you from one doctor to the other.
That's
So
right.
just to tell you, Mehul, now that has become very, very common and popular in India as well. And the good part is that in all the major cities in our country, we now have MDTs or multidisciplinary tumor boards where cases like yours, which are challenging, are always discussed in a team before we start.
Yeah,
Yeah, so great.
I came,
Thank you for bringing
yeah,
that up. Okay.
I came
Then
to know
what?
that, but that at that point it was like
No, it
a big
wasn't
thing.
available. Yes, I agree. I agree.
Right. So then they started with the plan of chemo, and that is the time when the doctor they saw at my face and they said, "You might survive a month." I'm like, "No." He
Oh
said,
my God.
"Yeah." And me and my wife were in. I remember that the doctor's office. Everyone was there, and my reports were there, and uh, I could not talk, so I had tears in my eyes. And they asked, my wife asked, like, what are the chances? Like he said, at the most, he might survive a month, but let's hope for the good. So I looked at my wife, she looked at me, and we said, no talking of death again, like, ako mein. So we never spoke of dying, never. And then they started an induction chemo, like kind of,
Correct.
I had a chemo bag in my belt, and that was a 24/7. I had IVs and
Yes. Yes.
that. So that were like 3 cycles, 5 day each of one cycle.
Absolutely. Tough one. Yes.
If I
TPS is
remember right.
what you got, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Saturday, Sunday was off, like kind of a holiday, just to get my platelets and things in place. So that went on, and that after that regime of treatment, they gave me a month, and I started responding. So earlier I could not walk,
Brilliant.
but I started walking. I started feeling better than before, so I knew it's working inside. And I tell you again, you know it, but just for the people to understand that cancer is fought more in the mind. It's a battle in the
Yes.
brain than the body. So think positive. I kept thinking positive. Yeah, yesterday I could walk 5 steps. Today I can walk 10 steps. So I'm improving. I'm hitting the cancer. So that what kept me moving. So after the first chemo, they gave me a gap. They scanned me again, and they still found, as you said, they still found traces. They gave me option again, and the chemo had shrunk in the right direction. Like they found it on my vocal cord. So they said, okay, we have a chance to remove your vocal cord, or if you don't want to do it, we can either continue with the chemo radiation together. And I was confident. I said, I want to talk again. I have built up my confidence because I could. I'm not 1 month, but I'm 3 months plus now. So let's try that. But again, they warned me, they said if we do radiation and chemo, then if you want surgery, then that might be difficult because
Might be difficult, of
your,
course.
your throat might become like a log of wood and it would be tough. So I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I'm positive. I said, let's go with chemo radiation. So again, we did 35 cycles of chemo radiation together. And yeah, radiation was fun, burn throat, everything. Beard is not coming for a year, and also, but I learned a lot. And finally, after the chemo radiation, and again, they scanned me, they didn't find cancer. And
Brilliant. And here you are to tell the tale, Mehul. From 1 month to 8 years, it's
8 years,
quite a
yeah.
journey. Yeah. And, the other message I really want to give to whoever is listening is that, yes, chemo has its side effects, but look at the ultimate result. And it has temporary side effects, but in the long term, it shrinks your tumor and it can allow you to live a long and cancer-free life. So I think that's important to get rid of the fear of the treatment, which so many people have. Uh, how was it getting back to normal, Mehul? To be able to learn to speak, because your voice is I'm so impressed, is near normal now. So
Yeah.
what kind of rehab did you have to go through to get here?
So actually, let me, before I come to this topic, let me give you an incident where, I could not eat, so I was on the feeding tube, and
Yes.
me and my wife were here in the US New. We're staying in a hotel room. So there was an ice cream parlor close to our hotel room where my wife loves ice cream. So in the evening, we used to just walk down there and she used to have ice cream. And I told her, like one day, I just, I told her, like, I just tried to I could not
Want
walk.
to
So I was
try?
acting,
Yeah.
give me some ice
Yeah.
cream, a little pinch of ice cream.
Yeah.
She said, no, you're
Yeah.
not allowed. It will go in your lungs because the food
Yes.
bypass will drop.
Yeah. Yes.
So I said, no, I'll just taste it. Please, please, please. I'm like, please, give me one. She said, no. But then finally she gave me one small pinch of ice cream, like taste on my tongue. And wow, that was the best ice cream I had in my life. Then I asked her to give me some more. And then she said, no. I said, no, it's working. I'm feeling good. And then I ate a couple of spoons of ice creams, and I started coughing badly. The ice cream had gone in my lungs. And then she panicked. We panicked. But I tell you what, it was a blessing in disguise. So the next day, my wife called up the doctor, and they called us back, and that is when they found that the chemo is working, and the tumor has shrunk. So the ice cream went in my body. So that was amazing. So what happens for the good. Okay, so that was an example.
Yeah.
So again, coming back to a question of rehabilitation. So it was one day at a time. It was tough. And again, what happens for the good. So my voice is like Amitabh Bachchan now, because
no, it is. It's quite amazing. It's really deep and sounds quite
I speak with one vocal cord. The right one is still paralyzed. So it was one day at a time. I had speech therapist in the hospital who used to teach me to swallow and try to talk. But I had the tube in the throat, so there was a hole here, and I was trying to press the opening and try to talk.
Yes.
That is the way the therapist used
trained
to teach
you.
me.
Yeah.
So it's a long process. It took me around 2 years to actually start speaking that people could understand. So again, it's one day at a time. You have to just think of yesterday and then today, and not everything at the same time. So that was a learning process. Then again,
when did that tracheostomy tube come out?
It came out after maybe 6 months after the last scan.
For 6 months.
Doctors were not sure. They said, let's make sure that it's not there. So then
when did you get off your feeding tube?
Around the same time, like 6 months after my treatment. So both the tubes are
so it does take time. It does take time. And I think patients need to be, more patient, because they're always in a hurry. They feel conscious. People are looking at them with all these tubes naturally. I mean, you've changed your appearance. Everybody's curious, but it does take time, and you do get back to normal.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So again, my jaws were my molars were removed before my radiation because they didn't want the teeth to be in the line of the radiation. So that was another problem.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have teeth. So when the tubes are out, I
Oh
didn't have
dear.
teeth to eat. So again, I
Oh
was tormented.
dear. Oh
But
dear.
and then the remaining of them started chipping out and falling. So I said, "Oh my God!" So I want to eat. I'm a good Jew, so I cannot live without eating. So
No, I think all Indians love their food, so it's not
yeah.
only good
So
Jews. Yeah.
I spoke to her. We had a doctor in Pune who my wife and some
Yes.
of my friends knew, and then we reached out to her, and she saw my case. And because it was a radiation, a different case, and my jaw opening
Right.
also was thanks to the tobacco that I
Right.
used to chew. I had fibrosis and
Right.
I could not open my mouth a lot. It's still just two
Mouth
fingers.
fully.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she performed the surgery and she put in 6 implants at the lower jaw and
Wow.
6 at the upper jaw. So if you see my skull, it's like you're scared. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, so finally I got my teeth, which are all duplicate now. And then I could eat slowly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, everything takes time. So it took me a couple of years to get back to normal. By the time I started talking more properly, I started doing a job. I tell you, I started working in a call center in the US because I was so frustrated sitting at home and not doing anything. And I wanted,
Wow.
and I
Wow.
had that, I
Yeah.
told you that I had that guilt feeling. I wanted to pay back. I wanted to earn
Yes.
money and pay back everything that was spent on me. So I did not get a job right away because a new country, I was not that qualified for the jobs that were available here. So I joined a call center job,
Right.
a throat cancer survivor talking on the phone. And like this, I had to, that's still at the opening. So I didn't let anyone know that I have trouble talking now.
Wonderful. Amazing.
I used to
Amazing.
talk. And I still had the feeding tube in my stomach. So in the breaks, I used to go to the
Wow.
restroom and feed myself from
Have
the
your
feeding tube.
feeds. Oh wow.
So
Wow.
I've done that.
That's a story. That's a story. Have you ever
Yeah.
thought of
So
writing your story for other people?
no, I'm not good in writing, but maybe I keep
You
myself
can
so
get a
busy.
writer, Mehul. You can get a writer. Nowadays, everybody does that. But
Yeah.
truly, I mean, what you've been through is classic textbook, the whole rehab, the whole diagnosis, the whole, and the way you've handled it. I'm amazed. I'm a caregiver. I take care of so many patients. I treat so many patients, but it's amazing to really hear this story from you. So tell me, when you feel you want to give back, you, I believe, started talking in schools, and you're focusing on de-addiction. So, do you feel very strongly about smoking and alcohol now?
Yes. So what I started doing is I had my school friends were there with me always, but because I could not talk, I was communicating with them on Facebook. I was posting my pictures. Okay, today I have been through this, and tomorrow I'm going to do this. So it was on Facebook, and they were communicating. After my treatment was over, and then I went back to Pune for the first time, I met my friends, and they said, "Why don't we do a presentation in our school about smoking? And
Right,
you
right,
have your picture."
right,
So I said, "Yeah,
right.
I can do that." And then we went to our school and we spoke to the principal there. She was very happy, and we had a small presentation of pictures. And I showed my burned throat, I showed my teeth removed, and I scared the kids there, this 9th, 10th standard kids. And I said, "Don't smoke, okay? I'm lucky to survive. You might not." So
Right.
that spread like fire. Like kids went and told their parents, and then I was there for 10 days, and 10 days I was going to different schools. So I loved that. So I have a group called Youngsters Against Smoking on Facebook. I have like 4,000
Nice,
youngsters in
nice.
that who are connected to me, and they keep me busy. Like, talk to my dad, he smokes. Talk to my brother. It's not just the school students. It's
Yeah,
it's their
yeah, the
parents, it's their
family
brothers.
members.
So that keeps me busy, and that made me feel that it's not just the person who smokes, but the family is suffering a lot.
Of course
They
it does. Of
it's
course.
just being selfish if you're a smoker. You don't love your family if you smoke, as what I know. And yeah, So I think I covered your question.
And we do see a lot of cases now with lung cancer in patients who've never smoked but who are passive smokers because somebody in the family or the neighborhood is smoking. And it we need to start worrying about all these things and be more conscious. And like you said, it's the ninth and 10th standard which start experimenting, and that's where it's kind of cool, the image, to have a cigarette and then to go to a party and smoke with your peers. And then before you know it, you get very, very addicted. Uh, do you ever worry that the disease is going to come back? Does that ever bothered you during your recovery?
Yes and no. Okay, so let me tell you. So at this moment, I'm dealing with many things. Even if my cancer is gone, I still have my chewing problems. I have tinnitus, that's the ringing in the ears. That's because of my chemo. I have imbalance. I cannot run. I think I might fall down because I think there's a loose connection between the brain and
Sure. Yes, there is a connection.
my
Yes.
legs. And I am a thyroid patient now. I'm on thyroid medication all the time. I have high BP. So there are so many things I'm living with daily. I have like 5 to 6 tablets every day. And then a relapse. So cancer changed me a lot. It changed me. It made me a different person. It changes everyone a lot who goes through this trauma. So I realized, I started thinking, I'm lucky, I'm privileged to wake up today morning. Thousands of people did not wake up. I'm better than them. And people pass away because of strokes, accidents. We've seen COVID. And so that thought process just, the relapse thing goes aside I'm alive today, let me live today. I'm not thinking of relapse and all. But I'm not underestimating myself. I'm very cautious. If I feel there's some change in my body or there's something, I make sure I reach out to my doctor. I make sure I get it diagnosed, and that fear is there all the time, but you should not pay attention to it, is what I think.
So basically, too busy coping with day-to-day life and giving back to society, all these things have kept the fear of relapse. But I'm sure you know by now that once you've usually crossed the first 4 or 5 years, your chances of relapse get fewer and fewer, and you're pretty much in a safe zone right now. So that must give you a lot of confidence.
Yes, that does. But again, I'm in many cancer support groups. I'm a different person. It depends from person to person. Some people don't like to talk about the cancer after it's over. Some like me, like I keep talking about it. My wife doesn't like it because she doesn't want to think about those days. So she's a different person. I'm a different person. There are persons who have different thought process. But I'm connected to cancer, people fighting cancer. I'm in many cancer groups, as I told you, and I talk to them, and it keeps me rooted to that cancer thing all the time. So I share my experiences. I tell them. But again, like sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's
Of course
I
it is.
cannot
Of course it is.
I cannot express what's going on in my brain
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
Then if I wake up in the morning, I see my messages. My mom passed away. My dad passed.
Yeah.
I get more sad messages than happy messages, but this is how you have to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. We do lose a lot of patients, Mehul, but then we have success stories like yours that make us happy and make us think that it's worth it being an oncologist, or it's worth fighting this disease, right? So I think life becomes all the more precious when one has gone through what you've gone through. So if you had to give a message to the youth out there and to the people out there who are struggling with similar problems as yours, what would it be?
So I would like to give messages to three type of people. Like one, people who do not have
Right.
cancer. So the first one is like, if you don't have cancer, you have to be more alert. Like you have to don't take it lightly. Cancer can happen to anyone. and get yourself insured again. That's the main message. Live a healthy life and be active. Don't get into bad habits and all that stuff. So that's one message for the people who are doing well. The one for people fighting cancer is it's not a big deal. If I am alive, if I can fight it, you can. I'll fight it too. It's just not a big deal. It's all your brain power. So stay positive. Positive. You attract what you think. Is my experience.
Absolutely.
So if you think of dying, it's not good. If you think of living, definitely you will at least attract some part of it. So that is what my personal experience. And then again, people who are going through this process, please trust your doctor. I have a hard time explaining people to trust their doctor. It's sad, but they go to some WhatsApp messages, they go to some other YouTube videos, and they slide out alternative treatments, and which are I try to explain that it's not wrong, but doesn't help in cancer. And I would say that trust your doctor, do something that is verified by science.
Yes, correct. So do what's tried and tested and has an evidence base, and try and look for a team rather than just one individual who you're going to rely on. And look for inputs, but look for scientific inputs on what you're doing. Just don't go by hearsay. Yeah.
And I would say take second opinions, take third opinions. Your doctor will not get mad at you. I tell them it's your right.
Yes.
If you want. Yes. My wife took a second opinion in the US. So
absolutely.
It's not, even the doctors understand that they have the right to take a second opinion. So don't hesitate to.
Of course. And it only verifies, it verifies the whole treatment plan. So that's great to hear. So thank you, Mehul. Yes, third message, go ahead.
For the people who are out of cancer like me, don't take any symptoms lightly. Live a healthy life. Live each day. Don't think of relapse, okay? Just live and enjoy. That's what the last.
And give back like Mehul has given back.
And give back,
in any little way. It doesn't have to be big and huge. You could just spend time talking to somebody, guiding them. It could just be something very small, but just give a little bit back. It always helps. Yeah. So Mehul, thank you. That was really, really pretty amazing. And I'm sure we've all learned a lot from your journey, and you will continue to inspire many, many people as you go along. So thank you for being with us this evening. And
thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you for all those who tuned in. And we hope that you have enjoyed this interview as much as we have talking to Mehul. And until the next time, thank you.